If your program feels different depending on who's in the room, that's not a summer staffing issue. That's a consistency system issue. Today, we're not chasing perfection. We're installing 5 non-negotiables that protect children, staff, and families, no matter who is working. Every staff member, every room, every day.
Elevating childhood education, where leaders rise, children thrive, and your program becomes a legacy of excellence.
In this episode, you'll learn how to choose exactly 5 behaviors that matter most in your program right now. You'll be able to define what those behaviors look like in observable terms so that it's trainable. You'll be able to reinforce 1 non-negotiable per week with a simple plan for weeks 1 through 8. You'll also be able to print and post your non-negotiables poster in every room, and also run a quick consistency audit monthly, not punitive. Data, just providing data for improvement. So first, let's talk about why summer consistency breaks down. Summer changes the conditions. You have floating staff, you have mixed groups, you have rotating schedules, and fewer predictable rhythms. When conditions change, teams default to personal style. So the question isn't, how do we get everyone to do it my way? It's, what are the few behaviors that protect safety, quality, and trust everywhere? So that's why we're going to take you through a process where we look exactly at 5. There's a reason for it. Just hang in there with me. Next, let's talk about what non-negotiable actually means. A non-negotiable is not a preference. It's not my classroom style. It's a behavior that must happen with no exceptions because it safeguards children and protects the program. So we're going to go through the toolkit, our resource for this week, in our live demonstration portion of this session, and we're going to define some non-negotiables as behaviors every staff member in every room must demonstrate, no exceptions. If it's important, make it specific. If it's specific, you can train it. Now, let's discuss the biggest mistake leaders make. The mistake is choosing vague non-negotiables like being professional or being consistent. Instead, your non-negotiable must be observable. Number 1 could be maintain accurate attendance and ratio counts throughout the day. Number 2, support every child transition with a consistent cue and calm voice. The next can be document every incident, injury, or behavior concern before end of shift. Now, those are just 3 examples that you could use as non-negotiables, but those are important. I'm sure you would agree that those are non-negotiables. Those are things that we cannot afford to compromise. Those are behaviors, though, that you can coach if it does not happen the way that it's supposed to. So now let us do this live. We're going to install your 5 non-negotiables, and we're going to make sure that it gives you some samples, but you, of course, will make sure that it aligns to the needs of your program. So you're going to individualize your plan, but I'm going to take you through some samples so that you can see how it works. And so I'm going to share my screen here so that you're able to see and follow along with me. And you have the opportunity to also go into the description box below and access the link so that you can download your very own copy of this tool if you don't have it already. And we've been following or using this resource for the last weeks, right? So we're using this for the entire month of June. So please get it. And if you have not seen the prior episodes, go back and watch the episodes so that you can see how to implement the resource in your program right away. All right. So this is our summer reset for strong fall launch. And so we are now at module 3. So we're in week 3. And so let me just scroll down to that quickly so that we can follow along here. In week 1, we did the summer operating system. In week 2, we did micro training that actually sticks, actually works. And this week, we are talking about consistency in every room. And so these are our non-negotiables for our summer staff. And so this allows us, and this again gives some examples that you could use, but they're not set in stone. You can modify this based on whatever the needs of your program are. And so the examples here that they give are maintain active supervision at all times, eyes, ears, and position, right? Proximity. Follow the daily routine as posted. Communicate any change immediately. Use only approved behavior guidance techniques. Document every incident, injury, and behavior concern before end of shift, right? Don't leave it until the next day. Do it before the end of your shift. Greet every child and parent and guardian by name at arrival and departure. Conduct health checks at arrival and document any concerns. Maintain accurate attendance and ratio counts throughout the day. Follow all food allergy and nutrition protocols without exception. Support every child's transition with a consistent cue and calm voice. Use professional, equity-affirming language with children and families at all times. Positive discipline. Report any concern about child safety or well-being immediately to the director or to leadership or whoever's in charge. And then complete all required documentation before leaving your shift. And so these are some non-negotiable behaviors. And so these are some that you can certainly adapt or adopt for your program. They are all aligned to standards and best practices, but you can definitely modify based on the needs of your program. And then we have, so that is really step 1 is selecting the non-negotiables. And then step 2 is to define what it looks like for each of the non-negotiables. So non-negotiable 1, whatever that is, you want to define what that looks like. So above we had, and I'll just take 1, maintain active supervision at all times, eyes, ears, and position. So if that's your number 1 non-negotiable, what does that look like? That means that staff position themselves appropriately throughout the classroom, have appropriate proximity to the children, that they have no blind spots, that they have direct line of sight at all times to all children in the classroom, that they are aware of the surroundings, that they are anticipating behaviors, especially knowing their children and knowing what behaviors could take place, especially if you have a runner, right? Someone positions themselves towards the door, all of those sorts of things. So whatever it looks like for you, whatever your non-negotiable is, what does that look like physically in your classroom, in your program? And so you would do that for number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5, because we were choosing the 5 non-negotiables. And do you have to limit it to 5? By no means. You can certainly choose as many as you would like. But just for the sake of this demonstration, we are just sharing just the 5, right? And so what would that look like? Let me choose just one more. Follow all food allergy and nutrition protocols without exception. And so what that should look like or could look like is that each classroom has its own asthma allergy list that is posted in the classroom at all times on the teacher board, the board that is designated for the teachers, and that each person coming into the room will go and observe that list and make sure that they are aware of any children in that classroom that have allergies. They are referring to it during the meal times to make sure that the child is not giving something that they are allergic to, right? And so you would make sure that if there are any alternatives, there should be alternatives provided by the kitchen for that particular child during mealtime. So you want to make sure that that child gets that. Your allergy list should also list, it should have a picture of the child not just the name of the child, because if you have someone that's visiting in that classroom for the day, especially in the summer months, you see this where they may not be familiar with the child. They may not know the child's name. If it's a floating staff, they may not know the child's names. That's why you have the picture there. And then you also have what the allergy is, what the response is, and then also what the alternative is as well. And if the child has medication, you should know where the medication is held and where it is kept. And you should see the child's healthcare plan and know how to respond in case of an emergency. So you would outline what that would look like. And so that's just an example that I gave you. But of course, you would select your own non-negotiables, and then you would identify, put it in print, what it looks like. And you would do that for all 5. And then you have your weekly reinforcement plan. And so this is where you want to make sure that the consistency happens. So for week 1, your non-negotiable number 1, you post it in a staff area and you review it in your huddle with your teachers. So you take some time aside to be able to do a huddle with them and let them know these are the non-negotiables. It will be posted and tell them where it will live, but then you can review it with them. These are non-negotiables. These are laws, or these are best practices that we are abiding by. For week 2, your non-negotiable number 2, and this is just breaking it up one non-negotiable at a time to make it more palatable so that staff are able to retain the information and to implement as they go. But this is, you do a walkthrough observation with verbal affirmation to ensure that it's happening. And then not just if it's not happening, do you want to make mention of it, you also want to mention when you see it happening. I see you being intentional about that. Thank you so much. Week 3, you do your non-negotiable number 3, and here you have a peer check-in where you can pair your staff together where they observe each other. For week 4, it gives the idea for the non-negotiable number 4, documentation, review, and feedback session. For week 5, non-negotiable number 5, director observation and one-on-one debrief. Week 6, review number 1 and 2. Do a quick quiz. Staff describes what it looks like for them. Week 7, you review non-negotiables 3 and 4. You do a team scenario discussion. What would you do? Week 8, all 5 non-negotiables, do a full team audit, and then celebrate the consistency wins. And so this just gives you a structure. No, by no means do you have to follow this exactly. Modify it, make it, adjust it to the needs of your program. But this serves as an example and serves as a structure that you can put in place if you don't have anything or are not sure where to go in reference to this. Next is the summer consistency packet. So this is the take-home resource, right? And so this is where you have the non-negotiable posters that you can print and put in each room. So you want to list what your 5 non-negotiables are. And so I would even say what we did a little bit earlier, where we put what it looks like, also put that information there, because we say that active supervision should be occurring. Not always does everyone know what that looks like, right? So it's important to also have that here. That would be my recommendation. And then you would put at the bottom, whatever it is, see whoever, see the director if you have any questions. And then a quick consistency audit that you could use monthly. So you want to walk your program utilizing this checklist. It has these 3 areas: non-negotiable, evidence observed, and then your rating of 1 to 4, and then your next step. So when we talked about the structure or the outline for how we would implement and follow up for the 8 weeks on our non-negotiables, this just gives you the checklist that you're able, when you go around to do your observations, this gives you a checklist where you can document what you saw. So for each of your non-negotiable behaviors, you want to write down what you saw. What was the evidence that was observed? What did you see? You walked into a classroom, you observed that the 2 teachers were at different ends of the classroom. Proximity was appropriate to the children. There was direct line of sight at all times. There were no blind spots. And so you would put that in. What did you observe? And then what was the rating on it? Not yet. Maybe in the time that you went and did your observation, you didn't see it, or maybe it was emerging, or you saw it consistently, or it was exemplary, that it really impressed you, that you saw it happening. More than consistency, but you saw it happening always. And so you would complete that for each of your non-negotiables and document so that you could go back and see where additional support may be needed. And then you can sign off on it and say who conducted it. And even where we talked about the peer-to-peer, having them to observe each other for that, you can also share that checklist with them, that they are able to put it into practice. And so that concludes our resource for today. So I'm hoping that that was helpful to you. It gives you that tool that you could go and implement right away. You don't have to think off of the top of your head of how am I going to implement this? Where should I start? I already put together and provided a resource for you, and you can modify it and change it based on the needs of your program. Modify it however you need to. Download it and adjust it however you need to. But please do implement it and utilize it. Start it right away. There's no reason for a delay, but you want to ensure that staff are aware of what the non-negotiables are and what they look like. It's very, very important if we want to have consistency, right? Because we can say what it is. If we don't say what it looks like, then everyone will be left to their own interpretation. And so it'll be what they, in my example of the active supervision, so now it's what my interpretation is of active supervision, right? And so it may be different to everyone. So that's why it's important to do that extra step of putting in what that non-negotiable actually looks like. And so if you're trying to promote consistency across all of your classrooms, not just in the summer months, but also throughout the year, have whatever it is, whatever practice, it needs to be printed somewhere. It could also be posted somewhere, but staff should be aware. They must be aware, and everyone should understand what is the language that we're using, what is the behavior that we're doing in relation to this non-negotiable or to this best practice. And that is the only way that you'll see standardization across your classrooms, across your programs, if you operate multiple programs. And then the piece that was in there about observation and the follow-up. If you just implement something and then there's no follow-up, there's no observation, then you'll also see the inconsistencies. But once you couple it, when you give staff what it is, what the expectations are, what they are to follow, what it looks like, and then follow up with them on their understanding around it and do observations to see how they implement it and to see also if additional support is needed. And if you have staff that are performing at the exemplary level, then you want to highlight those staff, have them be the peer-to-peer observers, have them to also model for their peers what has been going well and why it went so well in their classrooms or in their designated spaces. So in the resource, it had that take-home piece. So now you want to flip that to use in your program. So you want to have your non-negotiables poster, and you want to have the quick consistency audit tool that you want to print those out and have those available for use immediately. And remember, we're not being punitive, but it's for data purposes only and to see how you can further assist. Consistency is not a personality trait. It's a system you install. You absolutely have to be intentional about it, or else it will not happen. So remember, go and download your copy of the toolkit so that you have your very own copy, and that way you can also look at the resources that were provided for the prior weeks. If you did not get a chance to check out those episodes, do go back and take a look. It is in the playlist for the month of June. Go back and take a look so that you can see how to utilize those resources. And then next week we will be together again. We're going to talk about our fall launch plan for next week. So we are excited about that. And so we want you to go in the description box below, access the link so that you can download your own copy and use it and implement the system right away in your program. And do me a favor, comment 5 and tell me one non-negotiable you're choosing this summer, whether it's supervision, ratios, transitions, documentation, communication, and maybe something else. But comment 5 and tell me what your one non-negotiable is. Till we meet again next time, let's continue to elevate early childhood education together.
Elevating childhood education, where leaders rise, children thrive, and your program becomes a legacy of